How's it going, y'all? My name is Jonathan Plevyak. I am a soul rock artist based here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Amazing. And you have a brand new single out as of today, correct?
Yes, today it's called Turn Me On.
Congratulations. That's exciting. I always
Thanks.
am happy to have someone like the day of a release. I've listened to it a bunch of times already, so I'm a fan.
Oh, sick. Good. I'm glad you had a chance to listen. Glad you like it.
I'm super excited to talk to you about everything. I'm like, yeah, really big fan of your music. It's like really up my alley. I love nostalgia
Sick.
and those vibes, so it'll be fun to chat.
Good.
I'd love to start at the beginning. Like, what was your relationship with music like growing up?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, my grandma lived with us and she was kind of like my second mom. My mom worked at hospitals late and my grandma kind of raised me. And she always had vinyl records playing on the house. So when I was a kid, there was always Billie Holiday and Frank Sinatra and Bobby Darin and just so many of those kind of classics, Elvis. So that was from when I was like a baby. I just was kind of raised on like the oldies. And then when I got into like middle school and like Guitar Hero was like huge and blowing up, my dad took me to my first concert, which was AC/DC. And
Wow.
that just like blew my mind. I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I just knew in that moment, like, that's what I wanted to do with my life and pursue. And that Christmas, my parents got me my first guitar. And so kind of like my whole kind of musical identity has been like oldies and classics and then like rock and roll. So that's kind of how I got into it.
A great combination and like what an amazing first show to attend. I feel like the bar is set so high after seeing.
It's crazy.
So when you got like your first guitar, were you already trying to play your own things or were you like trying to learn songs you liked?
Yeah, I never really did like formal lessons.
Oh,
I just like fully self-taught. I watched like a lot of like YouTube videos. And funny enough, there's like a super famous guitar teacher on YouTube. His name's Marty Schwartz. And he actually ended up coming up on stage just randomly at a show on New Year's Eve this year and playing a couple of songs with me in the
no
band. So I
way.
was kind of full circle because I was like, dude, you taught me guitar.
Oh, so he just like had no
Yeah.
idea.
He was just randomly in the crowd and he was like a friend of
Wow.
a friend and met him there. And then I was like, if you want to come up and jam with us? And he's like, yeah, I'm down. So he did a Blue Suede Shoes,
Oh,
found a couple of tunes with us and ripped it. And it was awesome. But yeah, that kinda taught myself and I kinda learned just, like, playing along to, like, a lot of my, like, favorite artists and bands at the time, and then songwriting and singing kind of followed after that.
that's really cool. It sounds like it was just very intuitive, like from the start in a way. To be self-taught,
Yeah.
especially, is really impressive. I always like to ask when people play Guitar Hero, did it have any correlation with actually learning guitar?
A little bit. I think mainly more on, like, the rhythmic end of, like, when you're, like, strumming and
Right.
kind of, like, picking, but I also, like, I'm a drummer as well. I drum a lot, and I literally learned how to play drums from, like, Rock Band and Guitar Hero, and, like, that is actually, I feel like, very accurate to, like, play.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
shout out Guitar Hero, shout out Rock Band.
Yeah, I think Post Malone learned allegedly, he says he learned guitar from Guitar Hero. I didn't really think about the rhythm part, but for sure. So when you started doing songwriting, like, what was that experience like? What were you tapping into for what you were writing about?
Yeah, I started writing when I was kinda getting into my, like, later teens, like, young adult, 18, 19, 20. So, a lot of the songs is about, like, my first heartbreaks
For
and,
sure.
the classic just adolescence and angst and growing up and stuff like that, and then kinda when I got into my 20s, I feel like the subject matter, like, changed a lot. Like, I had a couple-year period where I wrote a lot about mental health and anxiety, and as I was kinda navigating those waters, and then ultimately leading into more of this nostalgic, old soul channeling romanticism, uh,
Mm.
uh, I would say. So, yeah, I think as I've just gotten older as, like, a human, I feel like what I've written about has very heavily matured over the
Yeah,
years.
that makes sense. I mean, heartbreak is a great starting point, even though it sucks for songwriting
Yeah.
and it's so relatable. Yeah. Did you have like a conscious moment where you were like, oh wow, like this kind of old school influence that I have is starting to come into my own sound? Or like how did that sort of bridge together?
Yeah. 2022. I was coming out of like a really rough just season of life, and I was in a weird spot, and I was just really kind of like burnt out from our fast paced, just like modern digital noisy world. And I was just like, I'm gonna take a step back from just everything music, from just life, the grind, the hustle, everything, and just reconnect with just myself and why I even got into music in the first place. And during that time, I just started like re-listening to all those records that my grandma would have on spinning, and
Wow.
just getting in touch with that root of it all, like the source and the joy of it. And then I started writing a lot that summer, and everything seemed to have a little bit of this like nostalgic 50s, 60s influence to it. And I was like, oh, this feels fresh. This feels really cool. And then I was like, I'm gonna kind of keep chasing this. And then that was also the summer that that Elvis movie came out,
Oh,
and I went
yeah.
and saw that, and that just like blew my mind. So it was such a cool like remodernization of like what that time period
Totally.
must have been like. And that just kind of also fueled the inspiration. And so I had like 30 songs, and I cut it down to like my favorite like 10. And I just
Mm.
grabbed all my best friends who happen to just be amazing musicians, and we went into a studio here in Nashville and just recorded everything super old school. We used all like vintage gear and microphones,
Oh,
and we
wow.
recorded live in the same room, and we recorded on vinyl and tape,
Whoa.
and then started putting stuff out. And the first song that we put out from that was that tune Wild Love. And that song has opened a lot of opportunities for me. So kind of ever since then, that was February 2023. It's just kind of been a pedal to the metal approach.
I love that. It's also just like always like I find a theme with talking to a lot of musicians is like some tangible part of what they love about music just like follows them almost in this like unintentional, like unconscious way. And it's like that music coming back into your life at such an important time was so meant to be.
Mhm.
It's so cool that you like recorded everything so old school. Like, how did you learn to do that?
Yeah, kind of a mix of a lot of different things. So we record here at an amazing studio in Nashville called East Iris. So that space alone is incredible. The main tracking room that we record in was kind of inspired and almost modeled after Sun Records in the 50s
Oh, wow.
in Memphis, which was kind of the heart and soul of like blues rock, and where Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis and Roy Orbison and all those guys recorded.
Wow.
So visually in the layout of it, you already kind of feel like you're stepping back in time when you're in there. So that was a big part of it, just kind of getting with the engineer beforehand and being like, "Hey, this is a very specific sound that we're going for. What do you recommend?" So we used a drum kit from the 60s. We used, vintage guitar amps. The microphones we used were from that era. So it was a cool like team effort. Like the musicians brought in vintage gear. We recorded it old school. We used a lot of the studio's vintage stuff. So there was just a hybrid of all that, and it really does sound like it came from that era, which is cool.
And like really proves the timeless quality to that you can like still create something of that in that time period. That's just such a unique concept to me. You
Mhm.
mentioned that Wild Love was like a big canon event in a way for you. Can you just talk a little bit more about like what was it? Like what happened with it?
Yeah, so that was the song that I rebooted my music career with, rebooted almost my life with,
Mm.
and just started putting that out. And just I feel like the way that I promoted it, just the messaging of the song, speaking on what the song stood for, I just think it really connected with people. And I was kind of highlighting the message of like romance seems to be fleeting in our modern world. And
Mhm.
how can we get back to that? How can we bring those values of that sort of nostalgic romance into our 2025, 2026 lives or whatever? And it just started kind of spreading, doing the TikTok thing. But the coolest thing was, and I think what really spearheaded it was people started using the audio of the song to show videos of their couples, their loved ones. And then it like spread to like random things where like then for like 6 months it was people only using that audio but like sharing like their animals.
Oh,
And so that's the audio for that song. I think to date has been used like in like 110,000 videos. That really spearheaded it, and then that spread to the streaming platforms and stuff. And yeah, that song is definitely the best performing thing I've put out, and it's also I feel like that song is like the sentiment of what I'm trying to do, and that's the
yeah.
DNA, you know, of it.
That must feel so validating that, like, yeah, a song that has so much weight of importance to you resonates with so many people in the message that you were trying to convey. Like, I can't even imagine that. I think TikTok is, like, one of the most craziest enigmas of, like, how people
Crazy.
always love hearing those stories. How quickly did you realize it was gaining traction on there?
Within like a month or 2, I would say I started promoting it about like 2 weeks before it came out, and at that time, I r literally was kinda doing like a life reboot, so I every day I had time back then, I was like posting the song like 4 times a day, and
Yeah,
I just had time to just put the phone up and make content at home, and I just got like obsessed with it. I wish I still had like the time to do that now.
totally.
Um,
Yeah, I relate
you
to
know,
that for sure.
but yeah, I would say it took about like a month or 2 before it just every time I started posting it, it would just start finding new people, and I was like, "Oh, I think something's happening here. I don't know what it is, but something cool is happening."
Yeah, it just feels for me whenever I think about content and, like, it feels very out of my control, but I think there's something liberating that too, where it's gonna find the right people, and, like, that's such an example of that, which is very inspiring.
Yeah.
You've talked a little bit about collaboration. I know you perform with a band. What has that been looking like for you, and how has it evolved with your artistry?
Yeah, so I love collaboration. I try to make it in the fibers of everything that I do. When I moved to Nashville, I did not wanna be just another singer-songwriter with an acoustic guitar. I wanted to still be me, but you know, if you come see a live show, it feels like a true band and
Mm,
experience and a party. And we have a big band, and we have bunch of horn players, and it's energetic,
it's
it's
fun.
fun. On the records, when I wrote the songs, I would send about a week or 2 before we went in the studio all the songs to the band, but I would only send acoustic demos. I would tell everyone, "I wanna hear what you hear
Oh,
in
wow.
these songs." So when we would go into the studio to record, that was our first time ever hearing the full band arrangements,
Whoa.
and it was wild because every song, I didn't know what to expect. There were some songs where as soon as we started playing, I was like, "You guys are incredible," because it's like you were in my head and knew exactly what I
Wow.
was hearing too. But then there was a lot of songs where musically, the arrangements went in a whole different direction than what I
Mm.
was originally thinking, but that's what we ended up using because it was cooler. So that's been a huge part of it. I've been collaborating with other artists. Like we did a re-release of Wild Love with an amazing friend of mine. Her name is Mary Jo. She's a great pop artist. So we turned that song into like a duet.
Oh,
We have
nice.
another duet coming out with the third single for this next record with Tabitha Meeks, who's like an amazing like jazz pop artist.
Wow.
We love doing kind of the classic, male-female duet vibes.
Yeah, it's
And
perfect,
then
yeah.
the most collaboration thing we do, I started this event here in Nashville. We've done 3 iterations of it. I'm wearing a hat right now. So
Oh,
it's called
yeah.
Jukebox Jam, and it's like a 1950s, 1960s prom night that we do here in town, and we, like,
Oh.
decorate the venue, everyone dresses up, we have all these
Oh.
interactives, and then my band headlines it, but we have all of these, like, soul and pop artists that are here in town. They come out and join my band, and we do, like, 2, 3 songs, and usually do, like, covers and hits from the '50s and '60s. And, so I love doing that because that just feels like a massive live event that is all about collaboration. So, trying to make it at the forefront of everything we do, because that's what makes me so happy. I just love collaborating with people.
Yeah, I can just tell, like, you lit up as you started talking about it, which I love that. Like, I also have never been to Nashville, and then so whenever I talk to people who live there, it seems like there's such a music
Mm,
being such a the backbone of the community. But, like, for someone who might not know Nashville as well, like, what's something, yeah, that we wouldn't expect as an outsider about the community there?
yeah, this is a great question. First of all, where are you based out of?
I'm in Brooklyn.
Sick.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're in the cultural epicenter of it all. Nashville is an interesting thing. I feel like Nashville changes every year. I've been here a little over 6 years, and I feel like every year it gets a fresh coat of paint. I would definitely say it's changed a lot since post-COVID because a lot of people have been moving here from like California and New York and so bringing a lot of different vibes, both like culturally and also just musically.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say to people that haven't been here, obviously when people think of Nashville, they immediately think of like country music.
Right.
And country still obviously dominates so much of like the industry side. But in terms of like just general music scene vibe, I feel like it's baffling how expansive genres are in Nashville.
Mm.
Like, there's an amazing rock and roll scene here. There's an amazing Latin scene here. There's an
Mm.
amazing like hip hop scene and R&B and there's such a cool little pocket of community that is like bubbling up for all those kind of subgenres. There's a great jazz scene here. I always try to encourage whenever I know that like friends or family are coming to Nashville. I'm always like, well, okay, if it's your first time, you got to see Broadway because there's nothing else
Mm.
like it. But don't limit yourself there. Go to all these spots because that's like
Right.
where the heart and soul of like the music scene is here.
That's really cool. That explains it a lot because I've always feel like, especially in more recent years, I've heard less about the country, but more about like
Yeah.
the mixed vibe of it all. Really cool that everything kind of exists there. You're really selling it to me. I have to make a trip down there.
Come on down. Come
Well,
on down.
no,
I'll give you a whole list of stuff to check.
that would be amazing. How did you decide to do the jukebox jam? Like, how did it come together the first time you did it?
Yeah. So my manager and I, Joseph, we kind of started it. It's like our little brainchild, but I realized after, a year plus of releasing this sort of vintage classic retro sort of stuff is that there's such a pocket of people both in Nashville and just or I feel like around the world that are craving that just human to human, soul to soul connection, a little bit more of an old school way of doing things that maybe don't necessarily like how fast paced and advanced life is getting with these things
Right.
and just want a little bit of a sense of escape and relief from it. So there's almost I feel like a little bit of an escapism element.
It,
And I just yeah, I felt like, you know, putting that stuff out was like, oh, I'm not alone in feeling this way. There are other people that really feel the same way and all that. So the idea of the jukebox jam was to kind of create a one night of the year event where all of those people can come together and it's just this safe space to like we encourage, put your phone in your pocket and
mm,
turn to someone to your left and right, introduce yourself and dance and have fun and dress up and have a human connection night,
yeah.
even though you're at a show. And so that's really where it was born out of was to just provide like a space for the old souls and lovers of nostalgia to come together.
Yeah, I love that, and the name is perfect. I mean, it's like
Hell yeah.
jukebox is like time, but also jam, I think, is like an underrated word to represent that.
Hell
Music
yeah.
is all about like jamming. That's what it should be,
That is
right?
amen.
Do you
Amen.
have like any songs that you like to cover the most from like the early days?
There's a few that we've done that I love. We always tend to throw in if we have like a long set, we do a really fun rocking cover of Pretty Woman by Roy
Oh,
Orbison that
fun.
I love to do. Hold On, I'm Coming by Sam and Dave. We have a blast with that one. That's a great one to get like the crowd involved.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of like a little bit more like some deep cuts, like Mean Woman Blues, Elvis that I love. We'll do some Patsy Cline. We'll throw some Ella Fitzgerald in there. Dream Lover by Bobby Darin.
You've covered, yeah.
Yeah, we like to throw in at least one or two covers, like I said.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's
Yeah, those
great
are great
questions, by the way.
ones. Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's like my favorite genre. And I think like what you're saying really resonates with me, especially just like contextually, like music and songwriting has really changed. And I think there's something about that era that has this like honesty and authenticity about expressing love, which I know you alluded to. Like, from a more existential question, from your opinion, like, yeah, why do you think things have changed? Like, why do you think people are more reserved in expression and in that way?
I think it's a really deep um, answer that's just very layered in a lot of areas. I think social media has been the
Yeah,
biggest. The fact that like we're so interconnected with each other, with people we don't even know, strangers. I feel like the human brain was not supposed to know what is happening in the world at all times 24/7.
right.
We were supposed to like, go pick berries in a field and frolic and so I think just we're just so bombarded with the stimuli and that's created, lack of attention spans. This created more of a fast-paced culture and world. I think we've become desensitized to a lot of things just via all the crazy stuff that happens in the world, dating apps and stuff like that. I think, a little bit of part of it too,
Yeah.
kind of losing out on a little bit of that organic introductions into potentially meeting someone, the swipe culture and stuff like that. There's so many benefits to modern life and society, but there's also a lot of things where I'm like, I think we all could agree we could do a lot less without. So I think it's just such a mix of kind of how that's just happened over time. I have faith, even with us getting in more of the AI world and stuff. I have faith that the more that is kind of introduced on us or pushed on us to try, there's just going to be more of a growing population of people that are just like, well, I kind of like it this way, you know.
Yeah.
You do that, but I'm going to do it my way, and
Yeah.
I think as long as there's that going, we'll be okay.
That's a great answer. I think like when you were talking about the idea of, creating an event where people are encouraged to like turn to the person next to them, I think people are craving that more and more. And so it's just a
Yeah.
matter of having those opportunities. I even hear like dating apps now, people are just like, we're so burnt out from them. They'd like rather talk to a stranger, like so groundbreaking. But
Yeah. Easy
it's
concept.
crazy times. But I think like there is this desire for people to really want to connect again. And it's amazing that your music allows that to be an opportunity for that. If TikTok existed in the Motown era, do you think the artists would have embraced it or would they have hated it?
I feel like they would have embraced it. I
I think so
because yeah, I
too.
mean, you look at so many of those artists back then. We have amazing pop stars and celebrities in our current modern world, but like some of those people back then in the 60s and 70s, larger than life.
Yeah.
You think of like Prince, you think of James Brown, you think of Marvin Gaye and Elvis and stuff like that. It's like how would of course I feel like of course they would utilize that and
That's
they
so
would
true.
they would have been so in your face about it because
Yeah.
their personality, their energy was crazy, it was
Yeah.
infectious. So I feel like they would have used it.
I like that answer. I think you're right too. It's fun to imagine. You do a good job also on social media to create a modern feel, but also tie in those like kind of old school vibes and music.
Thank
Like
you.
I know you post a lot in like black and white. Like, do you just try to maintain a certain identity as you're creating sort of your social presence?
A little bit, yeah. It's definitely changed over the last couple years. When I was putting out that first EP, I tried to make everything black and white to just feel old but new. Most of all the visuals for that, we just made an iPhone or I'd have a friend film it or something. And then when I put out the second EP, Loverboy, we tried to make that a little bit more of a world building kind of concept. That was very inspired by like kind of old like comic books from the 50s, like in the 60s, like
Uh,
Archie and stuff like that. So we made everything, all the visuals for that record, like very, very colorful and bright, very like Technicolor, and we took a lot of
right.
influences from like some old Hollywood films. And then we had a friend of ours who's an amazing illustrator actually do comics. So for
Oh,
each single, we had a digital comic that we would put out, and then we made physical copies of it. It was called The
no
Adventures of
way.
Lover Boy. That if you got a vinyl, it like came with the album, so you could kind of read the story
Oh,
while you listen to it very, very ambitious concept for an indie artist, but
So creative.
it came out really well, and just really, really proud of that. I'll send you copies that you can
Love
all listen
that.
to. And then yeah, for this new record, the next record's gonna be called
Yeah.
Soul Man. It's going from Lover Boy to Soul Man, and lean in a little bit to more of like 60s soul Motown kind of elements. So I think for this record, we're trying to just make things a little bit more like it's cool. It's a little bit more like sexy, suave, a little bit. So for this record, I think the goal was to not really necessarily focus on like world building. We just wanted to just do kind of cool visuals that felt like the music. It's been a lot less creative energy, I think, making these visuals. But it's also too, as part of just being an artist in this modern world, it's so much as trial and error and experimenting. Because
Absolutely.
like I've been noticing, this is kind of just honest and real and vulnerable. Like I've been noticing that the more of this slick and suave stuff that we've been doing hasn't been connecting as much as just the videos that I would make, just putting my phone in my face and just
Mm,
being real and stuff. So, I've already been noticing, I'm like, well, while these visuals look really cool and are kind of bar raising, at least for me, like
yeah.
they're not connecting in a way. So maybe that's telling me that, that doesn't matter that much.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a lot of experimenting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm glad you said that too, because I think sometimes people, especially like social media, like you're going to get an answer whether you like it or not of like reception. And it's a matter of how you take that and see it as a challenge to think outside the box or differently. And sometimes that means like literally what you said, just like pulling up your phone. I worked at a label with Alicia Keys, and when she was releasing an album, we tried these 2 different social promos where one was like this super produced music videos, commercial style voiceover, like out now, such a lift to get it done. And then we also had her just like pick up her phone and literally be in bed being like, "Hey guys, my album's out." And that did so much better performance wise.
Crazy.
And that's always stuck with me.
Well, there's a very good chance after we get off this conversation that I do something like that.
Yeah, you never know. Kind of along those lines, with your songwriting specifically and working on this new project, how do you know when a song is finished?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm sure every artist would have a different answer. That's kind of the wonderful aspect of the studio is like you can just always add more. You can always try more and swap stuff out. For me, there has been a lot of songs in the past where I was like, yeah, that's it. And then I listened back and I'm like, that would have been really cool to add that
Mhm.
there, or we should have done that, or I should have recut that, or vocal take or whatever. But if I would say it's a little bit more on the rare side. Just kind of that listen back in the studio, and then you take it home and you listen to, the bounce of what you just did that day. And usually it's a feeling in the gut where it's like, this feels right. And
Yeah.
any more is just not needed. Sometimes less is more. And, it's just kind of just that gut feeling of like, I think this feels where it needs to be. And
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. That must have been really fun too, of like putting it into, your other band members' hands and seeing what they come up with, and then that leading to the final result.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must be like a
Well,
fun process.
and also too, it's like because we are recording a very old school raw way, when I play shows, I want people to come and it sound exactly like the record because that's
Oh,
how we do
yeah.
it. We don't do tracks or anything. So I always want to make sure, even arrangement wise, like, hey, maybe on this song, a glockenspiel or xylophone would sound really sick. But then I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm not I don't have it in the budget right now to add a glockenspiel player for my set.
Right.
So is that really needed? But
Right. I
if we
see.
axe that, you're gonna hear exactly what it sounds like on the record. It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
Trying to make it sound cohesive too is part of it.
That's really interesting. What are you, like, excited about with like, what's coming up for you release-wise? I know this was your 2nd single off of your next
Mhm.
project, so when is the full project out?
Yeah, so I have 2 EPs out that have gone back to 2023, and then this Soul Man record that will be coming out towards the end of the year is I guess technically my, like, debut official album. So
Exciting.
it's a full-length album, it's 10 songs, and I still we're still kind of deciding if we're gonna do I think we're gonna stop at, like, 4 singles.
Mhm.
So Turn Me On that came out today is 2 of 4. So we got one more coming out at the end of May, which is with Tabitha Meeks, which I mentioned.
Ooh,
That's a song called Crybaby, which I'm really excited about. And then probably one last single, which will be called The Void, which is it's kind of a gospel song. And I wrote it. It's a religious song, but it's not. I
mm,
just wrote it about my experience with faith, but in a way that I feel like is very relatable, and you could even listen to it and think that it's a love song.
mm,
I'm really excited about that one. A couple more singles, and then the full record will be out towards the end of the year. We're gonna do another jukebox jam in October here in Nashville,
nice.
and kind of, we're still kind of figuring out what the second half of the year is gonna look like. We're waiting, hearing back, but definitely some, limited touring around, and got a couple little indie festivals that we're doing,
Oh,
and
nice.
just keeping super consistent, and I also am in a rock band as well,
Oh, no
so
way.
I kinda have 2 projects that are keeping me very busy that are both, like,
Yeah,
full
wow.
time, so
So that is full circle. It's like the AC/DC comes back into play.
yeah, quite literally, yeah.
Do you play drums in the other band, or you just play drums for fun, or
Yeah, that's just more of just like a fun thing. I'll
okay.
occasionally do some drums in the studio, but yeah, in the other band's called Lombardi. I am like a
Okay.
co-front man, so I'm not lead vocal, but sing on a couple, but mainly like lead rhythm guitar.
That's so cool. You're
Yeah.
definitely a busy guy. All good
Thank you.
stuff, though. When someone, like, comes to see a show or, like, sees you perform, what do you hope that they walk away with?
I hope that they had a blast. I hope that they had as much fun as we had on stage.
Mm.
I hope they danced a little bit. Nashville crowds especially tend to be very stoic. So when we see people
Really?
dancing at oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know what it is, but
I'm
when we
surprised,
s
yeah, it's like the music but, like, Brooklyn's like that, but it's, like, hipsters, so you kinda get that pretentious, like, but
yeah, but we get a lot of dancing at our shows, which is the best compliment of all. And then I'm like, "Okay, we got 'em. We got 'em."
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just hope that it's something I'm working on daily. I have a hard time being present. And I hope that when people come to see a show that they're having fun, they're present in the moment, and everything that's going on maybe in their lives or just the world or whatever, it just seems a little less heavy. It just feels
Yeah.
a little more light. And if we can do those 3 things, I'm the happiest man in the world. So,
I love that, and it sounds like you achieve it with everything you do, with especially with the jukebox jam.
yeah.
To wrap things up a little bit, just some fun, lighter questions. I'd love to know, like, if you could bring your dream legacy act on stage with you to perform with, could be any genre, any decade, who would it be?
Man, I would first thing that comes to mind is do some sort of jazzy slow burn, but big towards the end ballad with Billie Holiday. She's
Oh,
like
yeah.
she's like my all-time favorite singer, so that's gotta be number 1. If it's like living current artists,
Mm.
probably Leon Bridges
Oh,
or
nice.
John Mayer, one of those 2 would be the I'd be like, "I'm really happy."
I can't play anything, and I would choose John Mayer as my legacy act. I would just stand there and watch. He's so great.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So cool.
truly, effortlessly cool. And then my last question, I'd like to ask if you had to give your music career an album name so far, what would you title it?
That's a good question. I'm gonna say this, and then I'll explain.
Perfect.
Very simple. In It.
Mm.
In It. I don't know if that's, like, is catchy or rolls off the tongue. I don't know if that's a weird album name, but yeah, I feel very much in kind of all aspects right now of my career, music, my life, just growing up and maturing. I feel like I'm very in the trenches
Mm,
of life and music and the career and experiencing the whole roller coaster of it, the good, the bad, the in between. And yeah, it's just like myself, my team, my band, like we're all just hustling. We're all grinding. We're all working hard to, you know, accomplish what we set out to do, but also to like reach people and try to put an impact in people's lives with music. And then when you have a song like Wild Love that actually does do that, and you know that it's like, okay, this is real. Like,
right.
something I can make can positively brighten people's days and impact them. That's such a high that it's impossible to not just keep chasing. So yeah, I would say in it. I'm in the trenches.
I love it. I think I can tell you're a good songwriter because you articulate your meanings very well. And I think, especially album titles, I feel like the simpler the better, right? Because it's like a little more
Yeah.
open for interpretation. Sometimes I ask people and they give me like a full sentence, and I usually make it the name of the episode. And I'm like, that's too long. But it's like a full thought.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it can be anything. It's art, but I love yours. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing questions. I'm very
Oh,
impressed.
thank you. It's been really
I
easy chatting with you. Yeah.
I saw too you did I can't remember when it was, probably pretty recently with MT Jones.
Yeah. 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 I was thinking you guys have a similar vibe for sure.
So I got to open for him. I
Oh,
think it was in the summer. I just did one show for him. Great dude. I love his music.
so good.
I love his music, his voice, his writing, his guitar playing. So when I was doing my research on your podcast, that was like one of the first things I was like, hell yeah, I'm totally
Oh,
good.
I love that.
So
Well, thanks for checking it out. Yeah. Yeah, he's amazing. He's
absolutely,
coming to Brooklyn, I think, next month, so I'm definitely gonna try to catch him. Like,
definitely
he'd be
should.
awesome live. Well,
Yeah.
amazing. I'm so excited. Congrats for your new single and all that's to
You,
come. You definitely have a fan here, so looking
oh,
forward to continuing
likewise.
seeing what you do. Yeah.
Honored.
Thank
Well, this was such a fun time, and I appreciate you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.